The Ninth Hopi Sign appears in September prayer for balance and blessing today. Welcome back to The Journey of Wisdom. The psychologist Carl Jung famously said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For centuries, many have looked at ancient prophecies, like the Hopi's ninth sign, as a fate descending upon us. But what if these signs are not just warnings, but invitations? What if the imbalance we see in the world, the environmental shifts, the social divisions, the quiet loneliness epidemic, is actually a giant mirror, reflecting a call for a profound inner transformation? In today's video, we go beyond the prophecy to explore how to answer that call, turning ancient wisdom into a practical guide for finding balance, purpose, and genuine happiness in our daily lives. So, I want to start by asking you, in what part of your own life are you feeling this call for a greater sense of balance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's begin this journey together. September's whispers, a sign of our times. There is an ancient whisper, a story that has traveled through generations, that echoes into our very own year of 2025. It's a whisper about a ninth sign and about the month of September. It speaks of a great unveiling, a moment of profound change. But what if that sign isn't something we're meant to be waiting for, scanning the night sky with anticipation or dread? What if the ninth sign isn't a distant comet racing toward us from the cold depths of space? What if, instead, it's something we're already seeing, every single day, right here in the light of the sun? Let's just pause for a moment. Let's look around at the world we are living in, right now, in this particular September. The signs are not subtle, and they are not hidden. They are in the very air we breathe and the ground beneath our feet. Nature itself seems to be speaking in a louder voice than ever before. We feel it on our skin during summers that break heat records year after year. We see it on our screens, and sometimes, frighteningly, through our own windows' skies glowing a strange, hazy orange from wildfires burning hundreds of miles away on the west coast. We watch with concern as the Gulf Coast braces for hurricanes that seem to form out of nowhere with an intensity that feels new and unsettling. We see pictures of rivers we've known our whole lives, the mighty Colorado or the storied Mississippi, looking tired and shallow, their banks wider than they should be. These are not isolated incidents, they are a pattern, a conversation the earth is trying to have with us. And then there is the rumbling within our human world. You don't need to look far, just turn on the news or scroll through your phone. The lines drawn between us, politically and socially, seem deeper and more rigid than ever. There's a constant hum of disagreement, a sense that we are a nation holding a tense conversation with itself, and we've forgotten how to truly listen. At the same time, we stand at a technological crossroads. With things like artificial intelligence advancing so quickly, it brings both a nervous excitement and a deep, unspoken anxiety. We wonder what it means for our jobs, for our children, for what it even means to be human. And beneath it all, for so many, there is that quiet worry at the kitchen table late at night, a concern about the economy, about the rising cost of living, about whether the future will be as stable as the past. But perhaps the most telling sign of all is not external, but internal. It's a feeling, a quiet emptiness in an otherwise crowded world. The U.S. Surgeon General has spoken of a national loneliness epidemic, a profound and painful paradox for our time. We can have hundreds, even thousands of friends online, our screens filled with updates and images, yet we can return to a quiet home feeling utterly disconnected. There is a deep human ache for real connection, for a sense of belonging that technology promises but cannot always deliver. It's a spiritual hunger in an age of material abundance. These are not separate events. They are not random points of chaos. They are threads in the same tapestry, symptoms of the same underlying condition. And so, The Ninth Hopi Sign has appeared in September. It didn't arrive with the thunderous crash of a falling star. It has arrived quietly, persistently, all around us and inside of us. It has arrived as a giant mirror held up to our world, and it is reflecting a civilization profoundly out of balance. The ancient prophecy, then, isn't a prediction of a single dramatic event we are meant to fear. It is a diagnosis of a condition that is already here, a gentle but urgent invitation to finally see, to understand, and to begin the sacred work of healing. The origins of prophecy, listening to the wisdom of the Hopi elders. To truly understand the depth of this diagnosis, to grasp the message held within this great mirror, we need to turn our attention away from the noise of our modern world for a little while. We need to journey, in our minds, to the high desert mesas of northeastern Arizona, for it is here, in a landscape carved by wind and time, that the Hopi people have lived for well over 1,000 years. Their wisdom is not the kind you find in leather-bound books stored in dusty libraries. It wasn't written down in formal edicts or academic papers. It has been kept alive through breath, passed from one generation to the next in sacred ceremonies, in fireside stories, in the quiet instruction from an elder to a child. It is a living wisdom, deeply woven into the rhythm of the seasons and the sacredness of the land. In the Hopi worldview, the story of humanity is not a single linear progression. It is a grand cycle of worlds, each with its own beginning and its own end. They teach that we are currently living in the fourth world. The first world, they say, was destroyed by fire, a cleansing that came because humanity had lost its spiritual center. The second world was destroyed by ice, when people became hardened and cold in their hearts. The third world was ended by a great flood, a consequence of forgetting the sacred laws. Each of these destructions was not a punishment from an angry God, but a natural consequence, a rebalancing. When a way of life becomes too disconnected from the source of life itself, the world system corrects itself, making way for a new beginning. And now, here we are, at what the Hopi elders believe is the closing chapter of this fourth world. The elders have a single, powerful word to describe the state of life that leads to this kind of great change. That word is Koyaanisqatsi. It's a word you may have heard before, perhaps from the famous film of the same name, but its meaning is profound. Koyaanisqatsi can be translated as a life out of balance, a crazy life, a life of turmoil, a state of life that calls for another way of living. It describes a society that values things over people, that takes more from the earth than it gives back, that moves at a frantic, unnatural pace. It is, in essence, a perfect description of the very anxieties and imbalances we just spoke of. The prophecies, then, are not just about future events. They are a timeless commentary on the human condition when we fall into a state of Koyaanisqatsi. To guide humanity, the Hopi stories speak of a series of signs that would appear to mark the end of this fourth world. There is no single, official list, as different clans and elders hold different pieces of the oral tradition, but many agree on a series of 9 signs. These signs have been interpreted to include the arrival of cobwebs in the sky, power lines, the sea turning black, oil spills, and gourds of ash that would fall from the sky, boiling the oceans and burning the land, a chillingly accurate description of atomic bombs. The 9th and final sign is perhaps the most debated, one of the most widely known versions shared by elders with author Frank Waters for his 1963 Book of the Hopi, describes it this way: "You will hear of a dwelling place in the heavens, above the earth, that shall fall with a great crash. It will appear as a blue star." For many, this prophecy was fulfilled in 1979 when the U.S. space station Skylab fell from orbit, breaking apart and streaking across the night sky like a brilliant burning blue light for those who saw it. It seemed a perfect fit, and perhaps it was. But in the world of prophecy, fulfillment can be layered. A sign can appear on one level, while its deeper meaning continues to unfold over time, like a flower slowly opening its petals. It's also important to understand that this ninth sign is sometimes intertwined with, but distinct from, another powerful Hopi prophecy: the coming of the blue star and red star Kachinas. Kachinas are not just carved dolls. They are spirit beings who act as intermediaries between the human and the divine. The prophecy says that the blue star Kachina will appear as a sign that the new world is dawning. Following him will be the red star Kachina, the purifier, who will come to cleanse the world and remove those who have turned away from the sacred path. You can see how easily these powerful symbols, a falling blue star, a purifying red comet, can be woven together by outsiders into a single, dramatic, end-of-the-world narrative, especially online. But to do so is to simplify a rich and complex tapestry of spiritual understanding. The Hopi tradition is not about creating fear or predicting a specific date for doomsday. It is about providing a map of consciousness. It's a guide to help us recognize the signs of imbalance within our world and within ourselves, so that we may have the wisdom to choose a different path. And that is where the true power of this ancient knowledge lies for us, today, in 2025. Not as a literal script for the future, but as a profound spiritual and ethical diagnostic tool, handed down to us with great care, so we might learn to see the world and ourselves with clearer eyes. From the fire of destruction to the light of awareness. That phrase we've heard, purification by fire, it lands heavily, doesn't it? It immediately conjures images of destruction, of loss, of an ending enforced by a terrifying external power. It's a concept that instinctively puts us on the defensive, bracing for a catastrophe we cannot control. But in nearly every great wisdom tradition on earth, fire has two faces. It can be the wild, consuming flame that reduces a forest to ash, leaving behind only scorched earth. Or it can be the focused, intentional flame of the blacksmith's forge, the very heat that burns away impurities, softens stubborn metal, and allows it to be hammered into something stronger, more useful, more beautiful. It can be the fire that destroys, or it can be the fire that refines. So, what if the fire the Hopi elders spoke of isn't a flame that will descend from the sky at all? What if it is a fire that is meant to rise up from within the human heart? What if it is the fire of truth? A light so bright and a heat so intense that it simply begins to burn away everything that is not real. Think of it, a fire hot enough to burn away the heavy cloaks we've wrapped around ourselves for protection and for show. The cloak of pride that keeps us from admitting when we're wrong or from asking for help. The cloak of greed that whispers we never have enough, that we must accumulate more to be safe. The persistent, cold cloak of fear, the fear of scarcity, the fear of judgment, the fear of our own insignificance. What if the purification is the burning away of these illusions, leaving only the authentic, essential self, stripped bare and ready to grow again? This idea of a difficult but necessary inner transformation is not unique to the Hopi. It is a fundamental part of the human journey, described in different languages by thinkers and mystics across centuries. The celebrated psychologist Carl Jung, for instance, spoke of this process. He called it integrating the shadow, the act of courageously turning to face all the parts of ourselves we have disowned, hidden, or repressed. It's the uncomfortable work of looking at our own capacity for anger, for jealousy, for selfishness. Jung taught that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. This purification, then, is the ultimate act of shadow work, not just for us as individuals, but for us as a society, finally looking at the collective shadows we have cast. Spiritual traditions have other names for this intense, transformative heat. In Christian mysticism, it's known as the dark night of the soul. It's not a punishment, but a profound spiritual crisis where old beliefs and identities dissolve, creating a void that can eventually be filled with a deeper, more resilient faith. In the yogic traditions of the East, there is the concept of tapas, a spiritual discipline that creates an inner friction, a heat that intentionally burns away impurities and strengthens the will. In every case, the theme is the same. Profound growth is often preceded by a period of intense, fiery, internal pressure. The prophecy also speaks of the earth itself being shaken, and we can feel that, can't we? We feel it not just in the seismic tremors of the planet, but in the tremors running through our human institutions. The very foundations of our economic, political, and social structures are showing cracks. Things that seemed solid and permanent only a generation ago now feel fragile, uncertain. The trust we once placed in these systems is eroding. But here again, we can choose our perspective. We can see this as the terrifying collapse of everything we know, or we can see it through the lens of this inner purification. This great shaking is not designed to end us. It is designed to wake us up. It is the universe's way of shaking us from the comfortable illusion that these systems we have built are permanent and infallible. It's a wake-up call to remind us that our ultimate security does not lie in a stock market, a political party, or a technological breakthrough. It lies in our connection to each other, to the earth, and to a core of integrity within ourselves. Seen this way, the fire is not a sentence. It's a summons. The shaking is not a punishment, it's an awakening. It's a call to become the alchemists of our own lives, to stand in the heat of this moment and allow it to transform us, to burn away what is false, to shake loose what is unstable, and to reveal what is true, what is strong, and what is enduring within us. It is an invitation to participate, with courage and with hope, in the sacred process of becoming new. September mirror, a season of judgment and balance. And so, we arrive at September. There is a reason this particular month holds such a special place in the human psyche, and it would seem, in the heart of this prophecy, it is a threshold month, a time of profound transition, when the very quality of the light begins to change, and the world itself seems to take a long, deep breath. Around the 22nd of the month, our planet reaches a moment of exquisite, silent poetry, the autumnal equinox. For a brief, sacred moment, the Earth pauses in its tilted journey around the sun, and its axis is perfectly aligned. Day and night, light and darkness, become equal across the entire globe. From the North Pole to the South Pole, there is a perfect distribution of light. It is a moment of planetary grace, a cosmic balancing act of impossible precision. Nature itself is sending us a message, not in words, but in the language of light and shadow. It is a quiet, persistent invitation to find our own point of equilibrium. In a world that constantly pulls us toward extremes, too much work, too much distraction, too much noise, too much isolation, the equinox arrives as a gentle teacher. It doesn't demand balance, it demonstrates it. It reminds us what balance feels like. Not a rigid, static state of being, but a dynamic point of stillness at the center of constant motion. It is the calm eye in the hurricane of our lives. This celestial event asks us to look honestly at our own inner scales. Where are we giving too much of our energy, and where are we not giving enough? Where have we allowed the darkness of fear or exhaustion to outweigh the light of our joy and creativity? The equinox is nature's annual audit of the soul. But September is not only a time of balance, it is also, and perhaps most importantly, the season of the harvest. This is the great reckoning, the time of truth. Throughout the spring, we tilled the soil of our lives. Throughout the summer, we tended our intentions. Now, in the low-angled golden light of autumn, the results are in. The crops are ready to be gathered, and we must look at what our efforts have yielded. This is a powerful metaphor for our lives in 2025. It asks us to stand as farmers in the fields of our own existence and take stock. What seeds did we plant back in the spring of this year, or 5 years ago, or even a generation ago? Did we sow seeds of connection? Did we invest our time and energy in listening, in understanding, in mending relationships? Or did we, perhaps unconsciously, sow seeds of division through hasty judgments, harsh words online, or by turning away from the needs of our neighbors? Did we plant seeds of compassion for ourselves and for others? Or did we cultivate the weeds of criticism and self-doubt? Did we plant seeds of long-term well-being for the earth by making conscious choices? Or did we sow seeds of convenience, taking what was easy in the moment without considering the cost? The harvest of 2025 is all around us. It is in the tone of our national conversation. It is in the health of our communities. It is in the state of our personal relationships. It is in the quiet condition of our own hearts when we finally sit alone at the end of the day. The harvest doesn't lie. It is the honest fruit of our collective actions and intentions. This moment, this season, is not about blame or regret. A wise farmer doesn't curse the meager crop. They study the soil. The harvest is simply a moment of clear seeing. It is an opportunity to look at what has grown from our choices, to learn from it with humility, and to decide, with wisdom, what seeds we will choose to plant for the seasons to come. And this brings us to the final, and perhaps most profound, lesson of September. As the month deepens, nature begins to teach us about the sacred art of letting go. Look at the trees. An ancient maple, ablaze in crimson and gold, does not cling to its leaves in fear. It doesn't mourn the loss of its summer glory. There is a deep, instinctual wisdom in the tree that understands this release is necessary for survival. It knows it must pull its energy inward, back to its core, to endure the coming winter. The shedding of the leaves is not a death. It is an act of profound trust. The tree lets go, gracefully and completely, trusting in the unseen promise of spring's renewal. This is the great teaching of autumn, and it is a vital part of the prophecies' mirror. It turns to us and asks, with the rustle of dry leaves in the wind, what are you clinging to that is no longer serving your life? What dead leaves are you refusing to release? Perhaps it is an old belief about who you are, a story you've been telling yourself for decades that has become too small for the person you are becoming. Perhaps it is a past hurt, a resentment you have carried for so long it feels like a part of you, yet it drains your energy day after day. Perhaps it is an outdated lifestyle, a habit of consumption, or a pattern of relating to others that once brought comfort but now brings only emptiness. Perhaps you are clinging to the illusion of control in a world that is constantly showing you the wisdom of surrender. The purification we spoke of earlier, that inner fire, is what loosens the grip of these attachments. It's the heat that shows us what is truly essential and what is ready to be released. To cling is to become brittle, to resist the natural flow of life. To let go is to become open, to create space. Without release, there can be no rest. Without rest, there can be no renewal. September, then, is not a season of doom. It is a season of profound spiritual opportunity. It offers us the gift of balance from the sky above, the gift of truth from the fields around us, and the gift of release from the trees that stand as our silent, wise teachers. It is a mirror that shows us not what is coming to destroy us, but what is ready to be healed within us. And so, in the end, it becomes clear. The ninth sign is not some distant global event that we are meant to watch passively from the sidelines, as if it were a movie on a screen. It appears in the quiet, intimate theater of our own lives. It is that subtle but persistent feeling of unease in our hearts as we scroll through the daily news. It's that deep, unspoken longing for a more genuine connection with the people around us, a connection that goes beyond small talk. It is that simple, powerful question that rises up from within during the quiet moments when you're driving home from work or standing at the kitchen sink, the quiet whisper that asks, "Surely, there has to be a better way than this, doesn't there?" That feeling is the sign. That longing is the sign. That question is the sign. It is the prophecy unfolding not as a spectacle in the sky, but as an awakening in the soul. And so, the ancient Hopi wisdom offers us not a warning to be feared, but a beautiful and timely invitation. It is an invitation to simply stop, to pause the endless motion of our lives, just for a moment, to listen not to the noise outside, but to the wisdom that is already within us. It's an invitation to look deeply and honestly into the mirror that this September holds up and to gently ask ourselves, where do I stand in this great and sacred balance? This journey of seeking balance is not one we have to take alone. In fact, it is a journey we can only truly make together by sharing our stories and our insights. And so, we would be honored to hear from you. In your own life, what are the signs you see that are calling for a greater shift or balance? It doesn't have to be something grand or dramatic. Perhaps it's a sign in the health of your family, a challenge at your job, or a quiet stirring in your own spirit. Please, share your story and your reflections with respect and care in the comments section below. Every single comment, every shared experience is its own small flame, helping to light the path forward for all of us. Balance and blessing, today. In the part before this, we stood together and looked squarely into the mirror held up by the Hopi prophecy. It was a mirror that reflected a world and a humanity that is deeply out of balance. And to be perfectly honest, spending time looking into a mirror like that can be heavy. It can leave us feeling small, a little overwhelmed, maybe even a bit helpless in the face of such enormous challenges. It's natural to arrive at a place of deep concern and ask the question, so, what now? What can one person possibly do? This is where hope enters the story. This is where we turn from the reflection and begin to look at the path ahead. Because ancient wisdom never offers a diagnosis without also suggesting a remedy. The title of our journey together isn't just the Ninth Hopi Sign appears in September. The second and most vital part is prayer for balance and blessing today. And that is where our focus will be for the remainder of our time together. This is the heart of the message. The journey is not about passively waiting for a sign from the outside to determine our fate. It is about actively, consciously, and lovingly creating a state of peace from the inside. It is about learning that we don't have to just endure the shaking of the world. We can become a source of stability within it. So if the first part of our conversation was about understanding where we are, this second part is about exploring the path we can now walk. And it's important to know, this is not a path that demands grand, heroic deeds or that requires you to change your entire life overnight. That's not how real, lasting transformation works. Instead, it is a path made up of a series of small, quiet, conscious choices that we can make every single day. They are like small rudders that, over time, can steer a very large ship. They are the daily practices that invite balance back into our lives, and in doing so, begin to weave blessings into the fabric of our world. This is the practical, hopeful, and empowering answer to the challenges we see in the mirror. This is how we take the wisdom of the prophecy and turn it from a sobering observation into a daily, life-giving practice. This is how we begin. The nature of prayer in the modern world, beyond words. So let's talk about that word, prayer. For many of us, that single word can bring up a very specific set of images. Perhaps it's folded hands, bowed heads, the quiet echo of a grand cathedral, or the familiar cadence of verses learned in childhood. For some, those images are a source of deep comfort. For others, they may feel distant, like a language that belongs to someone else. You might be listening to this and thinking, "I'm not a religious person. I'm not sure this part is for me." If that's you, I invite you to stay for just a little while longer. Because what if the true essence of prayer, the kind of prayer that creates balance and blessing, is something far more simple, more universal, and more accessible than we've been led to believe? What if prayer is not primarily about speaking to a deity in the sky, but about learning to listen to the deep well of stillness within us? What if it's less about asking for things and more about aligning ourselves with the very best part of who we are? Let's explore this together. We can think of this new kind of prayer as having two essential qualities: attention and intention. First, prayer as attention. The French philosopher and mystic Simone Weil wrote a sentence of profound simplicity and power: "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." In our world of constant distraction, a world that is monetizing our every click and fighting for every second of our focus, the simple act of paying full, undivided attention has become a radical act. And it is, in its essence, a form of prayer. When you sit with a friend or a family member and give them the full, undivided gift of your presence, when you truly listen to what they are saying without already forming your response, without glancing at your phone, without letting your mind drift to your to-do list, you are offering them a sacred space. That is a prayer. When you step outside in the evening and you don't just notice the sunset, but you allow yourself to be fully present with it for a minute or two, when you let the impossible colors of orange and purple wash over your awareness and fill you with a sense of wonder, that is a prayer. Even in the most mundane moments, the great Zen teachers remind us of this. When you are drinking your morning cup of coffee or tea, and you take a moment to actually be there with it, to feel the warmth of the mug, to notice the aroma, to truly taste it instead of just using it as fuel while you multitask, you are turning a simple act into a moment of mindful presence. That, too, is a prayer. It is the prayer of being fully alive in the one and only moment we ever truly have, the present one. The second quality is prayer as intention. If attention is the receptive listening aspect of prayer, then intention is its creative directive counterpart. It is the conscious and gentle act of setting the rudder of your mind and heart for the day. Think about how most of us begin our mornings. For many, the very first act is to reach for the phone. We immediately flood our minds with a torrent of outside information: news, headlines, work emails, social media updates. We begin our day in a state of reaction, our inner peace already hijacked by the demands and anxieties of the world. Prayer as intention offers a different way. It is the choice, before the chaos begins, to take just 30 seconds in the quiet of the morning to set a course. It is the simple act of asking yourself, what quality do I want to bring into the world today? The answer can be a single word. Today, I choose patience. Today, my intention is kindness to myself as well as to others. Today, I will look for moments of beauty. This isn't about making a grand promise. It's about planting a seed. It's about setting a moral compass for your soul before your ship leaves the harbor for the day's journey. By setting a clear intention, you are no longer just reacting to whatever the day throws at you. You are actively co-creating your experience of it. You are telling the universe, and more importantly, telling yourself what truly matters. This way of understanding prayer as attention and intention is not a new idea. It is a timeless truth that echoes through all spiritual paths. The great Sufi poet Rumi reminds us of the listening aspect when he says, "There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen." The entire practice of mindfulness in Buddhism is built on the foundation of paying pure attention to the present moment. This is a form of prayer that belongs to everyone. It doesn't require a special building, a sacred book, or a belief in any particular name for God. It requires only a willingness to be present, a willingness to listen, and the courage to choose, each day, the person you most deeply want to be. This is the prayer that reclaims our inner peace and begins, moment by moment, to restore our balance. A prayer for balance and blessing today. Let this not be a prayer of fear, but a prayer of remembrance. Great Spirit, the one without name or form, present in the wind and the sunlight, in the earth, and within every human heart. Today, we pause. In this sacred September, in this time of seasonal turning when day and night find perfect balance, we open ourselves to listen. Help us see the signs not in some far-off sky, but here, in the very fabric of our daily lives, in the trembling earth, in the warming air, in the quiet worry in one another's eyes, and in the strange silence so many of us carry inside. Please grant us the courage not to turn away. We pray for balance, not a rigid stillness, but a living balance, like the earth tilting just right, like light and shadow coexisting, like the steady heartbeat of humanity. We pray to know when to step back and when to step forward, to listen before we speak, to understand before we judge, to mend rather than divide. Help us to let go of what has grown heavy and hollow. Old stories we tell ourselves that no longer serve who we are becoming, grudges that drain our spirit, habits of consumption that wound the earth. Kindle within us a fire not of destruction, but of truth, a flame bright enough to burn away illusion, pride, greed, fear. May they fall like old leaves, revealing what is real beneath. We pray for blessing not as something that falls from above, but as something sown in our daily choices. A kind glance, a thoughtful word, a moment of stillness with a tree, or a child, or a sunset, a mindful sip of tea, a choice to care. May this prayer rise not only from our lips, but from our presence in kitchens and commutes, on sidewalks and in silence. Let each of us become a small flame, and together a steady light to guide the way in this shifting time. A prayer is not a request to escape the world. It is a vow to meet it with open eyes and a steady heart. Amen. So may it be. The 4 pillars of balance. So, how do we begin to put this prayer of attention and intention into practice? The idea of balance can feel big and abstract, but we can make it real and tangible by looking at 4 key areas of our lives, 4 pillars that hold up our sense of well-being. By bringing conscious balance to each of these pillars, even in small ways, we begin to transform the whole structure of our lives. The first pillar, balance with self. The first and most fundamental pillar is our relationship with ourselves. Our modern culture doesn't just tolerate busyness, it celebrates it as a sign of importance. We are constantly encouraged to do more, achieve more, and be more productive. This creates a relentless external noise, but for many of us, the loudest noise is internal. It's the voice of the inner critic, the constant narrator of our worries, our to-do lists, and our self-judgments. We can be surrounded by people and still feel profoundly unsettled because there is no peace within. The antidote to this inner noise is not more activity. It is the intentional cultivation of inner quiet and kindness. First, rediscover the power of silence. This doesn't mean you need to go on a week-long silent retreat. It can be as simple as carving out just 5 or 10 minutes a day for intentional quiet. Perhaps it's sitting with your morning coffee for 5 minutes before turning on the news or checking your phone. Perhaps it's turning off the radio during your commute home and just allowing your thoughts to settle. Think of it as a recharging station for your soul. In these small pockets of silence, we stop reacting and simply allow ourselves to be. Second, practice what psychologists call self-compassion. This is a simple but transformative idea. Learn to talk to yourself the way you would talk to a dear friend who is struggling. Most of us would never speak to a friend with the harsh, critical language our inner critic uses on us. When you make a mistake or feel like you've fallen short, try pausing and offering yourself a word of kindness instead of judgment. A simple, "That was tough, but you did your best," can change the entire chemistry of your inner world. And finally, consider a simple journal practice. This isn't about writing a perfect narrative of your day. It's about creating a safe space to have a conversation with your own soul. It's a place to untangle the knots of worry, to ask yourself honest questions, and to acknowledge small moments of gratitude or joy. A few minutes of writing before bed can be a powerful way to release the mental clutter of the day and reconnect with your own inner voice. The second pillar, balance with others. The next pillar is our relationship with our community, our family, our friends, our neighbors. We live in a paradox. We have more tools to connect with people across the globe than ever before, yet feelings of deep isolation are on the rise. At the same time, our society has become so polarized that genuine conversation, especially with those who hold different views, feels almost impossible. We have forgotten how to be in healthy, balanced relationships with one another. The path back to balance with others is paved with the simple, powerful arts of listening and presence. First, practice deep listening. So often in conversation, we are not truly listening. We are just waiting for our turn to speak, reloading our own arguments and opinions. Deep listening is the conscious act of listening to understand, not to reply. It's about offering someone the gift of your full attention, asking curious questions, and making them feel truly heard and seen. This single practice can transform tense family dinners and heal fractured friendships. Next, reclaim the power of quality time. This means creating moments of connection that are deliberately free from digital interruption. Make a simple rule, like no phones at the dinner table. When you are with a loved one, put your phone away, turn it face down, and let your presence be your gift. 10 minutes of truly undistracted, focused time with someone is more nourishing than an hour spent together while both of you are half distracted by screens. And finally, explore the joy of small, anonymous acts of kindness. This is about putting good into the world without needing any credit or recognition. Pay for the coffee for the person in line behind you. Leave a generous tip for a server who seems to be having a tough day. Shovel your neighbor's sidewalk. These small, selfless acts are powerful reminders of our shared humanity and weave a quiet web of connection and goodwill throughout our communities. Blessing in action, weaving light into the world. As we begin to practice these small acts of balance in our daily lives, finding quiet, listening deeply, connecting with nature, and taming our technology, something remarkable begins to happen. We start to build a reservoir of inner peace. A quiet center begins to form within us. And from that center, we are able to move to the next, most beautiful part of this journey. We shift from simply seeking balance for ourselves to actively bringing a positive, healing energy into the world around us. This is the practice of what we can call blessing. Now, that word, blessing, much like the word prayer, can come with a lot of baggage. We might think of it as a formal, religious act, something reserved for priests or saints, but I'd like to invite you to see it in a much more simple and profoundly human way. To bless something is not to ask an outside power to intervene on its behalf. To bless is an act of creation. It is the conscious choice to look upon a person, a situation, or the world itself, and to actively see and acknowledge the good, the sacred, and the beautiful within it. It's the act of looking at a chaotic and often difficult world and choosing to focus your energy on its potential for grace. It is the quiet but powerful act of recognizing the inherent dignity in another person, even when you disagree with them, even when they have frustrated you. It is to look upon them and wish them well, not because they have earned it, but because it is what you choose to generate from your own heart. And the most beautiful part of this practice is that it can be done silently, invisibly, as you move through your day. You can become a quiet, secret agent of goodwill in the world. Think of those moments that usually cause frustration. When you're sitting in a long line of traffic, the car's barely moving, and you feel that familiar irritation rising. In that moment, you have a choice. You can lean into the anger, or you can take a breath and try this practice. You can look at the car in front of you and silently, in your own mind, say, "May the person in that car be safe. May they have a peaceful day. May they find joy in a small moment today." You simply send a wave of silent, good intention forward. Nothing has changed externally, but you have completely transformed your own inner experience from one of stress to one of kindness. You can do this anywhere. When you are enjoying a meal, take just 1 second before you begin to eat. Look at the food on your plate and silently bless it. Acknowledge the incredible journey it took to get to you. The sun, the rain, the soil, the hands of the farmer who grew it, the driver who transported it, the person who prepared it. It transforms a simple meal into a moment of profound gratitude and connection to the web of life. While this silent practice is powerful, we must also remember the energy carried by our spoken words. Our words are not just sounds, they are tools. They can be used as weapons that wound, or they can be used as instruments that heal. The act of blessing is the conscious choice to use our words to build up, not to tear down. Think of the last time someone gave you a genuine, heartfelt compliment. Not flattery, but a moment when someone truly saw something good in you and took the time to name it. Remember how that felt. It can change the entire course of a day. It can lift a heavy spirit. That is a spoken blessing. A simple, "I really appreciate the way you handled that difficult situation," or "You have a kindness about you that I truly admire," is a gift of light. A sincere word of encouragement to someone who is struggling can be the very thing that helps them find the strength to keep going. And this brings us to what may be the most important and often the most difficult blessing of all, the blessing we offer to ourselves. We are often so generous with our encouragement for others, yet so mercilessly critical of our own perceived failings. The practice of self-blessing is the act of turning that same generative kindness inward. It is the act of forgiving yourself for the mistakes of yesterday. It is looking in the mirror and, instead of cataloging your flaws, acknowledging the simple miracle that you are alive, that you are here, that you are trying. It is the act of recognizing your own efforts, regardless of the outcome. It is the quiet, internal whisper that says, "You are worthy of peace, you are deserving of love, you are enough, right now, just as you are." This isn't an act of ego, it is an act of spiritual sanity, because we cannot pour from an empty cup. We cannot authentically weave light into the world if our own inner world is filled with the darkness of self-recrimination. By blessing ourselves, we replenish the very well from which all our other blessings flow. It is the foundation upon which a life of balance and purpose is built. The third pillar, balance with nature. The third pillar is our relationship with the natural world, the very earth that sustains us. For many of us, our lives are lived almost entirely indoors in homes, cars, and offices. We have become disconnected from the natural rhythms of the planet, the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the turning of the seasons. We are like plants that have been pulled from the soil, and we wonder why we feel drained and ungrounded. We don't need to move to the countryside to restore this balance. We can cultivate it right where we are through what can be called micro-connections with nature. Start by noticing. On your daily walk, consciously notice one tree. Look at its bark, the shape of its leaves, the way the light hits its branches. When you step outside, take a moment to feel the sun or the wind on your skin. These small acts of attention pull you out of the chatter of your mind and back into the reality of the living world. Consider bringing a small piece of nature into your home. You don't need a huge garden. Even a single small houseplant on your windowsill, a pot of chives, or a simple succulent can become a point of connection. The act of watering it, of tending to another living thing, is a quiet prayer, a reminder of the cycles of life and growth. And whenever you can, spend time outdoors without an agenda. This is different from jogging or hiking to reach a destination. It means simply going to a park or a quiet spot, sitting on a bench and just being, watching the clouds, listening to the birds, feeling the breeze. This practice has been shown to calm our nervous systems and restore our sense of perspective. It reminds us that we are part of something much larger, older, and wiser than our own fleeting concerns. The fourth pillar, balance with technology. Finally, the fourth pillar is our relationship with the digital world, a challenge unique to our time. Our technology is a powerful tool, but for many of us, the tool has started to use us. We face a constant deluge of information, a pressure to be always available, and the subtle poison of social media, where we compare our ordinary lives to everyone else's curated highlight reels. This digital imbalance is draining our attention, our focus, and our peace of mind. Balance here is not about rejecting technology, but about using it with intention and creating boundaries to protect our humanity. First, create sacred spaces that are technology-free. Two of the most powerful places to start are the bedroom and the dinner table. Banning screens from the bedroom allows your mind to unwind and achieve deeper, more restorative sleep. Keeping phones off the dinner table reclaims that time for real human connection and conversation. These are simple rules that have a profound impact on our well-being. Next, consider a regular information fast. The fear of missing out is powerful, but you can challenge it. Try choosing one day a week, or even just one morning, to completely abstain from all news and social media. You will likely discover two things. The world goes on just fine without your constant monitoring, and your mind feels calmer, clearer, and more spacious. Finally, become a conscious curator of your digital diet. Your social media feed is like the garden of your mind. You are the gardener. You have the power to decide what you allow to grow there. Take an hour to actively go through your feeds. Unfollow accounts that consistently make you feel angry, anxious, or inadequate. And then actively seek out and follow accounts that inspire you, that teach you something, that make you laugh, or that connect you with beauty. This is a powerful act of taking back control and using technology to nourish your soul, not drain it. We began this journey together with an ancient prophecy, a story of a sign that would appear in the sky. We have walked through the turbulence and the imbalance of our modern world. We've looked into the heart of a purifying fire and found not destruction, but the potential for profound transformation. And we have explored the simple, practical paths of balance and blessing that are available to each of us every single day. And now, after traveling this path together, we arrive at a final, quiet realization, a truth so simple and so close to home that we may have overlooked it all along. Perhaps the ninth sign is not something we are meant to see with our eyes. It is something we are meant to feel with our hearts. It is not a singular event happening to us. It is a collective awakening happening within us. It is the quiet, steady rising of millions upon millions of people all across this planet, in every country and from every walk of life, who are looking at the state of the world and making a conscious, silent choice. They are choosing a different way, the way of attention in an age of distraction, the way of compassion in an age of judgment, the way of connection in an age of isolation. The ninth sign, then, is not an external event that forces us to change. The ninth sign is a choice, and that sign is you. It is your choice, in a moment of frustration, to take a breath and offer a silent blessing instead of a curse. It is your choice to put down your phone and give the gift of your full presence to another human being. It is your choice to turn away from the noise of the news and listen to the quiet wisdom of a tree. It is your choice to forgive yourself at the end of a long day. Every time you choose balance over chaos, compassion over criticism, and connection over division, you become the living embodiment of the prophecy. You become the sign that a new way of being is not just possible, but is already taking root, right here, right now, in the quiet garden of the human heart. This has been a long journey, and I am deeply, truly grateful that you have stayed until the very end. If you are still listening to my voice, I would ask you to do one small thing for me. Please, help me by commenting with the simple, meaningful phrase, "I am here." I ask this so that I can know that there are friends walking this path with me, all this way. Your presence is the greatest encouragement I could ever ask for, to continue sharing these stories. Your presence, even through a simple number, is its own kind of sign. It's a sign that we are not alone on this path of seeking balance. Thank you. Thank you for listening.